Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be talking about the best luxury beauty bronzers on the market. Of course, this is my personal opinion, but I have tried so many luxury beauty bronzers, and these are just what I think are the best out there. So let's just get started, no dilly-dallying, and I'm going to talk about my number one pick. I'm going to start off with powders, by the way. And this is the Hermes Plain Air. This is the Healthy Glow Mineral Powder in the shade 02 Atlas. Of course, you could choose any shade that's going to work best for you, but 02 Atlas works the best for my skin tone. And I really love this bronzer because it's not a typical bronzing product, like what I would classify as a bronzer. With a lot of bronzers, sometimes we'll only get one shade, sometimes we'll get a nice shade range. With this one, we have, I believe there are 5 shades in this range, and they do go from a lighter tone to a deeper tone. And they are quite warm toned products. I do want to disclose that. So if you have a cooler skin tone, you might not like these as much if you're someone that just tends to reach for more neutral or rosy tone bronzers. These do lean a little bit on the warmer side. They aren't orange at all, but they are definitely warmer. They have a little bit of yellow in the undertone here. What I love the most about this bronzer though is that it is exactly what it claims to be, a healthy glow mineral powder. So this just gives you a really beautiful, healthy glow. And that's the best way I can describe it. It is almost more of a skin enhancer versus it being a bronzer. I like to kind of classify it almost as the same as like the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Enhancer. Very, very similar products, except the Makeup by Mario is a cream, and obviously this is a powder product. But it gives you the same sort of really just soft definition. It is the perfect product if you want an in-between between your bronzer and your powder, like just your foundation, your natural complexion tone. It makes it an easier transition, sort of like if you use a transition shade in your eyeshadows to make everything blend easier. You use this as a transition from your foundation to actually going in with a deeper, more normal, what you classify as a bronzer product. Or I will just use this in place of a bronzer instead of going in with something that has a higher contrast to it. I'll just go in with this when I just want to softly give my skin dimension without it being a noticeable bronzer. Sometimes I don't want it to look like I'm wearing a bronzer. I just want to give my skin a little bit of health, a little bit of dimension, because obviously when we just go in with foundation, things can look a little bit flat. So that's why we go in with products like bronzers and highlighters and blush, because we want to give dimension back to our skin. And this will just give your skin that little bit of dimension, that little bit of a healthy glow without it being obvious bronzer. I love this as well because this is so finely milled. It is silky smooth. It is very smooth, and you can barely see it when I swatch it on my hand. That is just how sheerly pigmented it is. So you do, like I'm building this up on my hands. So to get more pigmentation, you can build it up on your skin, but it's going to require you going in with more layers on your complexion. So you're just gonna have to build it up if you are someone that wants that more noticeable bronzed look. But I just prefer to use it almost as a skin enhancer, a complexion enhancer, or my skin just looks naturally bronzed versus it being an obvious bronzer. If you can tell, compared to my chest, it's about a shade deeper. If you did want that typical bronzer look, you could always just buy a deeper shade. But I love this powder so much because it's such a finely milled, blurring powder that I want to get a lighter shade to use as a powder, and I would like a deeper shade just to use as, again, that typical bronzer formula. And you just get so much product in here. I really think, I know it's so expensive, but to me, I would rather put my money towards something like, I'm a quality over quantity person, and I'd just rather have one amazing bronzer versus 6 subpar bronzers, even though all the ones I'm talking about today are very beautiful and they are above subpar. But again, just going back to, that's how I think about things. So if I could only choose one bronzer, it would be this one because that's how much I love this formula. I think the packaging is cute too, and I just can't say enough good things about this product. Now I'm going to talk about something that is limited edition, and I think it's still available in some select stores, but I want to quickly mention this just because this has just been a favorite bronzer for so many years, and this is the Chantecaille Real Bronze in the shade Sunstone. So this was released last year in their summer collection, and again, I think you can get it at some stores, but it is sold out on the Chantecaille site. I will try and find it, but I am guessing that they're going to release another version of this bronzer I don't know if it will be next year, but they do keep on re-releasing this bronzer. So I have faith it will come back eventually. This does come in just one shade, which is a downfall. Again, this is the shade Sunstone. In comparison, so they had their shades Sirena and, what was the other one? Goa, I think was it? Those were deeper in tone than this one is. This is quite light, but it is buildable. Like you can see, I built up this swatch quite a bit. So this is definitely more of a neutral bronzer, especially in comparison to this Hermes one. This leans very neutral toned. This is my mom's favorite bronzer. If you watched our video together, she absolutely adores this bronzer. And I think it is because this is a Beiges formula. So Beiges actually start out as creams and then they are baked down into powders. And what makes it a really unique product is that you actually require a denser brush to apply these products because they are baked, so they're hard to pick up. They're insanely finely milled. Like they feel, and I guess it is because they start off as a cream, they feel very creamy. And the benefit of these is that they are sheerly pigmented, so you can get that really sheer natural bronze look, kind of similar to that skin enhancer effect I was talking about. But if you go in with a denser brush, like my favorite is the Rougher 22 brush to apply this product, you can get more pigmentation and you can get that bronze look. And Beiges just offer the most beautiful effect because there's an ever so soft sheen, but it's almost a sheen from the creaminess of this product versus there being actual shimmer particles to this bronzer. There are no detectable shimmer particles. And the most beautiful thing about a Beiges is how they look on the skin. If you are someone that likes the appearance of cream products because of how skin-like they look, but you don't like that creams can be finicky, they can fade away, they can just be harder to use, I would recommend a Beiges bronzer because they melt into the skin like a cream product would. So when you look at someone's skin when they're wearing with these sort of products, you can't actually detect that they're wearing a powder product. It looks like you're wearing a cream product. I just can't get enough of these Beiges, and this Chantecaille one is absolutely gorgeous. If you can find it, I really recommend it. Another product that I have just fallen in love with this year is this Dior Forever Nude Bronze. I have the shade 02 Light, and I like this shade because, again, it is very similar to this Hermes. If I could compare, like make the best comparison for this Dior bronzer, it is this Hermes bronzer. That's the one it reminds me the most of. The formulas are a little bit different though. This one almost feels a little bit waxy. It's a little bit harder to pick up than the Hermes bronzer. But again, it is nice because it's sheer, but it's very buildable on the skin. It's not a very powdery bronzer at all. It is a little bit harder to pick up on a brush like I stated. But again, I really like this effect that I get from this bronzer because I get that really beautiful skin enhanced look versus it being an obvious bronzer. This definitely leans a bit on the warmer side as well. And Dior, when they release these bronzers, they release these in mattes. And then there was ones that declared that they would have a little bit of a sheen. This one is the one that has a little bit of a glow to it. However, I literally cannot detect any sort of shimmer particles. So the sheen is very, very subtle. And it's almost, again, that this powder is creamy. That's what makes it have like the glow, I guess you could say. But I just really, really love this. And this does claim to be waterproof and sweat-proof. And I think this is a really long-wearing bronzer. Like, to me, it is definitely sweat-resistant. I'm not going to go on and say it's waterproof because I haven't tested that out. But it is very long-wearing. Like, I have to really rub to get rid of that swatch. And I just really like this formula. If you're someone that likes a demi-matte bronzer, if maybe you're put off a little bit by the price of the Hermes bronzer or you can't get it in the country you live in, I do really recommend this Dior one. I really like the packaging. This is, again, a reformulated bronzer. This is way better than their previous bronzer that they had previously. I didn't like that one at all, and this one I do really, really enjoy. Of course, they are going to just reformulate in probably another year or two, but I do really like this formulation. I think it's gorgeous. And then a bronzer that is the most new to my collection is this YSL All Hours Hyper Bronze. I have the shade 02. So again, YSL has released a decent shade range. I think there are 6 in this. And the shade 02 is a really nice neutral bronze. This is probably the most neutral out of all the ones that I have talked about. And this is also the most pigmented bronzer out of all the ones I've talked about. So this is definitely the most neutral. It is the most pigmented and the most obvious as a bronzer, I guess you could say. It's not crazy though. You can see it is definitely deeper than my complexion. So this is the one that I would use as like a typical bronzer. It's not a skin enhancer or anything. It is a typical bronzer. And again, you can choose which shade best matches you. But the shade 02 is just a great neutral tone bronze. So when I want something more neutral toned and I don't want it to be super warm, this is the bronzer I reach for. It's also the bronzer I reach for when I want a more matte bronzer, just because this has absolutely no shimmer to it. There is no sheen. This is just a typical matte formulation. And it is very silky smooth. It is very buttery. It is very creamy. So it is really easy to blend, even though this is a little bit more powdery. So when you dip your brush into this bronzer, you will see powder kind of fly. But I don't think that's a bad thing. It just is a little bit more pigmented. So I always suggest when you're using a more powdery / pigmented bronzer, just really make sure you're getting that excess powder off on the back of your hand, just so it doesn't go on splotchy or uneven or anything. But this is so finely milled and silky and buttery that it does blend very easily, even if I haven't powdered underneath or anything. It's just a really gorgeous, easy to use bronzer. And again, I like the packaging. It is kind of similar to the Dior. They did the same kind of thing, but it is really pretty packaging and I really like it. And this is just a beautiful, luxurious, typical matte bronzer. If you are someone that likes a purely matte formulation with no sheen or anything to it, but it's still easy to blend and it doesn't look matte or dry on the skin, it still retains a very skin-like finish. So it's matte, but it's not drying on the complexion, which is very important for someone with my drier skin type. And then I did want to mention this Chanel. This is the Le Beige Healthy Glow Sunkissed Powder in the shade Light Coral. And this has actually replaced my Guerlain, I think it's just the Healthy Glow bronzer. I prefer this formulation. This is just a really beautiful, again, this is like a typical powder bronzer formulation. It does go on a little bit more powdery. So it's pigmented, but it's not too pigmented that it's hard to work with. It is silky smooth. It is a very creamy formulation. And this bronzer is just a really nice, it's definitely neutral leaning warm, but it's not too red, I don't think, because I don't usually love a red bronzer on me. But you can see it's just a gorgeous neutral tone. And I just love this formula. And I think Chanel lacks, or they did lack, a good powder bronzer. I just wasn't really impressed with any of the ones before. And this is just a really beautiful skin-like powder. This powder really reminds me of skin. It has that beautiful skin-like finish. Again, there are no detectable shimmer particles to this. And my favorite thing, again, about this powder is mixing all these products together and then applying it almost as a finishing powder, or you can just use this as an all-in-one and just use it as, I don't know, you can dust it all over the complexion. Like if I'm really running late and want to wear a little bit of makeup, I like to apply a little bit of concealer or foundation or a tinted moisturizer. And then I'll go in with this, just this, and mix everything together and just brush it all over the face. And it just gives your skin the most beautiful, healthy glow that's very subtle. So it's like do they call that a bronzer or something? But when you mix everything together on the skin, again, it just gives you a gorgeous, subtle glow. You're not really going to be able to see that on my hand. But anyways, it just gives your skin health. And it gives you a little bit of a glow without it being, again, detectable shimmer particles, because this highlighter that's in this palette actually does not, it's not even a highlighter. I would just say it's like a healthy glow powder. It's a powder with a bit of a sheen versus it being a highlighter that has shimmer particles to it. It's very different than an actual highlighter. And again, that blush, it's a coral shade and it has a tiny bit of a sheen, but no shimmer particles. And it's just a gorgeous powder formula that looks really healthy on the complexion. It gives your skin health back to your skin and a little bit of a glow, and it's very beautiful. So I wanted to mention that one, even though it's kind of like an all-in-one powder, but it's really good if you are someone that likes to shop from Chanel. And then I also wanted to mention my favorite liquid / cream bronzers. And of course, I had to talk about the Chantecaille Sheer Glow Bronze Face Tint. This is my perfect multi-purpose product. I love to use this as a foundation. I love to use this to mix into my foundation. So you can use it as a skin tint. You can mix it into your foundation if you do get a little bit darker in the summer and you need something with a little bit of color so you don't have to buy a separate darker foundation. But again, this video is about bronzers, so I'm going to talk about its bronzing capabilities, and I really like this, and you can see mine's completely empty. I do have a backup, I just haven't opened it yet, but I really like this as a cream bronzer slash liquid bronzer. I guess you would most classify it as. It's a gel consistency, so when you apply it to the skin as a bronzer, I really like this because the gel formula of this, it does set down. So it doesn't set down to a powder finish, but it dries down, so it's no longer tacky or sticky. So if you're someone that doesn't like creams because they get stuck in your hair, this will not do that at all. And it's also really gorgeous because this is one of the only liquid slash cream bronzers that blurs your skin. This has a blurring, soft focus, filtering technology to it. And even on the outskirts of your skin, you'll just see it look so flawless and filtered. It's so gorgeous. And this is the most subtle bronzer. It definitely blends into my skin because I do lean a little bit neutral warm, and this is a warmer toned product. And it just gives my skin that really gorgeous health. Again, without it being an obvious bronzer, it really blends into the skin because it's so sheerly pigmented and sheerly tinted. It will just give my skin that little bit hint of color, give my skin that health and natural glow back without it being an obvious bronzer on the complexion. So when I want that really natural look, like if I'm going to the beach or the lake, or again, it's just summer and I'm gonna be outdoors and talking to people one-on-one, this is the bronzer I'll reach for because it just looks so skin-like and natural on the skin. It is beautiful. And then finally, we have the Westman Atelier. These are the Sunstone bronzing drops in the shade Soleil Parfait 1. So it's the lightest shade. I do want to say the Chantecaille one, it only comes in one shade, so I really hope they expand this because I would love to see this in a broader shade range just for more options because I would pick this up in other shades. But anyways, back to the Westman Atelier. I have the lightest shade, and I think this runs a little bit dark. Like they could have a lighter shade for sure, and they could also have deeper shade. Well, I think they do have 3 shades, but they could probably go a little bit deeper. So this is the shade 1, and it is a very neutral toned liquid bronzer. So if you think the Chantecaille one is going to be too warm for you, I would recommend this one. I would say the formulations, they are a little bit different. Like this Westman Atelier, I wouldn't use in place of a foundation like the Chantecaille one. I use this specifically as a cream bronzer, and I think it performs the best that way. It doesn't have that same blurring technology as the Chantecaille one. But you can see you can get quite a bit of pigment out of this, but you can also really sheer it out as well, so it won't look that intense. And this is just really easy to blend. It's really easy to apply. It blends like a dream. Again, if you go in with that little bit of product at a time, and I just like to apply it to the high points of my face. And it just looks so skin-like, and I think that's my favorite thing because a lot of these liquid bronzers that get released, they have shimmer to them, and I just don't like that shimmer. This is completely matte, and it does dry down, similar to the Chantecaille, but it doesn't dry down to a powder finish, but it does set down on the skin, so it's not going to transfer. It is incredibly long wearing, so it's perfect for the summer months. And again, it just looks like skin. It looks so natural. So if I want my skin to look like skin in person, this is the bronzer I'm going to reach for. Again, these are very similar in that way, where they look very skin-like on the complexion. The one downfall with this is that you cannot use a damp sponge with this because it will remove product that you've applied underneath, like your foundation will lift off. So definitely remember to go in with a brush on this one. But again, it's just so easy to blend and it makes you look so healthy. It's a nice neutral tone. It's not too warm. I like that it's matte. It is completely shimmer free and it's just gorgeous. So this is something that I have absolutely been loving. And I even like to layer it. Like I'll use this Westman Atelier, which is a little bit more neutral, and then I'll set it down with this Dior one, which is a little bit warmer. And again, it just gives me that really beautiful look, and they layer up beautifully because both of them are, they're definitely, the Westman Atelier is definitely more pigmented than the Dior, but again, it's very easy to sheer out, so it looks very skin-like. And I just can't say enough good things about this. I really like that product. I did want to talk about a few that I don't love though, and I think you've heard me talk about, and to me, these ones are not worth the money. And the first one is this Victoria Beckham, the matte bronzing brick. I have the shade 01. I've also tried the shade 03, and I just don't love this product. I think if you are looking for a matte bronzer, the YSL one is the one I would suggest. I just think this formula looks too drying and matte on my complexion. It's almost too powdery. Like when you dip your brush in, powder flies everywhere. And I think because of that, it does look a little bit dry on my skin personally. I know that a lot of people love it, but I've just never been able to get this to work for me, and I don't love this formula. I also don't love the Armani bronzer. I can't even remember the full name of it, but I returned that because I did buy it at Sephora, so again, easy return. I didn't love that formula because it just is too shimmery. It is a type of bronzer, like indoors, you can't really see the shimmer, but when you are out in natural daylight, you can see shimmer particles sitting on the skin. And I just don't like that when you can see that visible sheen on the complexion. It's just not my favorite look. So I would definitely skip that one as well. And then again, I did mention that Guerlain bronzer. And I used to love Guerlain bronzers. And I think it just goes to show that your makeup preferences can change. And also formulas can change so much. Like we have such amazing formulas on the market now that I just feel like the Guerlain bronzer is so subpar. Especially just that typical matte bronzer. To me, it's just nothing special. Like the formula is nothing special. My favorite one, if I had to choose, is the Healthy Mineral Powder. The one that has, again, similar to the Chanel, where it has the trio of colors. I still think that one's really beautiful. The formula is definitely better on that one. However, I just reach for this Chanel one more. So to me, I would just rather choose this Chanel one. And again, I like that you have the different color ranges. With the Guerlain, you do too. You have like 1, 2, 3, 4. So they get from lighter to deeper. And they do have light tones and cool tones. So I do like that, where Chanel could definitely work on expanding their shade range. But I just like this formulation better, and I like how this looks on the skin a little bit better. I just think this is an upgraded formula. And one more luxury beauty bronzer I think you can skip is this Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer. And I actually don't even have mine in the compact because I just use this as a mirror. It actually is a fabulous mirror. So I just kept the compact for the mirror. And I just don't love this formulation. I do love her airbrush powder, but I think the bronzer felt a little flat. It's a typical matte formulation again, but there's just something that's not beautiful about it. It's not airbrushing like her powder is. It's just it's a very subtle bronzer, so it's very buildable on the skin, which is nice, but that's about it for the specialness of it. I just don't think there's anything special about it. I don't get luxury vibes from the formulation of that bronzer. So to me, that is also a skip. Again, if you're looking for a matte bronzer, this YSL one is for sure my recommendation. Okay, I'm actually back like 4 hours later because I realized I forgot to mention 2 more bronzers that I don't think are worth the hype. And again, this is just my opinion. I know a lot of other people love these bronzers. And so obviously different skin types or just preferences are just going to be a preference for someone else. But I also don't think the Tom Ford bronzer is worth the hype. Now, I had heard so much hype about the Tom Ford bronzer, and you actually can't get it in Canada anymore, I believe. And it seems like it is getting discontinued because it's getting harder to find. However, I hope they reformulate it because I personally did not like the formula. I know a lot of people love it, but on me, it looked so dry. Like I remember getting it and I was so excited. And then I looked in my car mirror, which I feel like is the ultimate test. And I was shocked by how terrible it looked on my skin. I remember just looking at it and thinking like, oh my gosh, it looks so like weirdly heavy and dry on my skin. So it's a bronzer that I tried to get to work for me. And it looked okay in like just normal daylight, like if you are indoors, but I still don't think it looked that great. It isn't as like silky or easy to blend or seamless as I prefer some other bronzer formulas. So to me, that Tom Ford bronzer formula is just not worth it for the price. And then finally, really sad to say, but I actually don't like the Hourglass bronzers. And I feel like this is a super unpopular opinion, but I don't really like Hourglass powders in general. There is something about the formula that looks heavy on my skin. Again, similar to the Tom Ford. I don't know what it is about that formulation, but when I apply those powders to my skin, they always just look heavy. They look kind of cakey on my skin, and I have no idea why. I'm not sure if it's just the sheen that maybe reflects off my skin, maybe looks heavy. I'm not exactly sure what it is about those powders, but there's something about those powders that look heavy on my skin instead of seamless and melting into my skin. Those are the type of formulas I like. And then in some of the Hourglass powders, because they have those they have some powders that have a bit of a sheen. Sometimes, not in every bronzer, but in some of them, I could detect a little bit of that shimmer particle that I just don't love. But regardless, it's just that heaviness on my skin that I don't enjoy. I think otherwise, They seem nice, like they blend really easily, but I just don't like how heavy they look on my skin. And yeah, but that is it for all my favorite luxury beauty bronzers, and then a few to skip. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know down below your favorite luxury beauty bronzers. I would always love to hear from you, and I love to keep the conversation going. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you in my next video.